answers when we do not know the question.
Recently, through bouts of unemployment, sessions of self-love, and inevitable self-reflection, I have decided to revisit one of my favorite pastimes, Overwatch. A complex allegory for the modern-day schizophrenic who feel as if the true team-based gameplay experience comes from a much more intrinsic and holistic approach than that of its competitors. This video assumes that you have no knowledge of the great decisions the development team has made over the years, or the mental gymnastics the community as a whole has to go through in order to continue ranked gameplay just to be placed directly into mid to high gold. It's worth noting early on in this video that the only scam potentially on par with Blizzard matchmaking is NFTs. So you might ask yourself, Basic, what gives you the right to comment on such matters? Well, I started playing Overwatch back in 2017, and you could say I've seen my fair share of changes to the game, which is plenty of time to develop a healthy case of Stockholm Syndrome, which has kept me crawling back like the true bottom that I am. After all, I identify as a main tank player. This time period is also known as peak Overwatch, whatever that means, but it alludes to the fact that people consider this a time that had peak player counts, regular and attentive dev updates, and constant content being pumped out to the masses. As time went on and dev updates became fewer and further between, it felt as if I was physically standing atop the Titanic, looking down and exclaiming, "Hey, those guys are sinking," while blatantly disregarding the nearest lifeboat. What I'm trying to say is that the fundamental lack of self-awareness with the Overwatch community is an impressive feat in of itself, and it's something that every player must attain before even downloading the game, because this is how you will be able to properly communicate with your fellow Overwatch enjoyers. This community is filled with people who would argue about how rehab isn't for quitters, and that maybe the guy with the horse pills had a good point. For example, go 25-2 on tank. Outdamage both of your DPS combined while still performing your duties as a tank by making space and mitigating damage, only to have some 0-45 Hanzo, who forgot to turn their monitor on, type tank diff at the end, and everybody agrees with him. Have your play of the game stolen by a Doomfist connoisseur who spent more time on his back last round than a freshman sorority girl looking for approval, and finding yourself consulting a 3-year-old CarQ tutorial video seeking that very same approval. Essentially, the average player is either a racist, homophobic, or alcoholic, but typically a combination of at least two of the three, so prepare to have your genitalia used against you one way or another. Consequently, the game has literally never been more popular. As I mentioned before, I identify as a tank main in this game, mostly because I haven't been fucked like this since middle school. Your job is primarily to roleplay a babysitter to the other 4 window lickers you happen to queue up with, and watch over them as they attempt to rub their last few brain cells together in order to fire a working neuron. Fortunately for you, you have a larger health pool than they do, and can watch in slow motion as they get picked off by the opposing pack of seagulls nitpicking at their heels for every misstep, despite your guidance and best efforts to set the pace and tone of an engagement. One very rewarding aspect of Overwatch is that every engagement is different, unless you play Reinhardt. Remember, if you're not dying, you're probably not doing it properly, which is why I play Rein the most. So give it your all and get in there. If it doesn't work out, just blame your supports, especially the Mercy. Those players are typically well-adjusted and well-balanced keyboard warriors. The rules of engagement for tanks in Overwatch are simple. Create the space needed for your teammates to work the most optimally in, and hold that space threateningly. Knowing this concept is key, because once you understand where the optimal place is for your team to operate, you can push them all straight past it for your own personal glorification and satisfaction. After all, nothing says tank diff like a 5-person shatter in the enemy team spawn when you're up by 5 minutes and haven't even lost a team fight. This is where true tank power and experience comes from. The truth is, if one of your other teammates feeds the entire game, the team can work around that sorry individual and compensate. However, if a tank is feeding, it's probably a GG. The entire team, no matter the role, has a vested personal interest in keeping you alive. And there's no better way to see how far they're willing to go for that concept by being as homicidal and suicidal as possible. There are ways to properly play a hero, but then there are ways that a hero should be played. Thus, you walk forward into the great unknown, guiding these freshly birthed giraffes attempting to walk for the first time and try to figure out how to engage with 3 variations of team-based objectives.